Guys, I'm doing it. I know that you have one, at least one, for the very first time in my life, to be honest, over and over again. And I think that saved me from a lot of stress. I have figured out a strategy, guys, okay? Truly no one cares. So how do we actually make 2025 a good year? Okay. Hi guys, welcome. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jini. In the last few days I've seen those how to make 2025 the best year in your life videos popping up everywhere, and initially I wanted to share a foolproof plan how we can do the same, but honestly I've had my ups and downs this year and I know I'm not alone in that. It just feels like I've been mostly in survival mode, and for the longest time I've been a big fan of making New Year's resolutions because just the thought of accomplishing all of them felt really good, you know? But guess what? Sticking to those is such a big challenge for me. So how do we actually make 2025 a good year? I think it starts with reflecting on our current year, and let's do this together. Just grab a piece of paper or your favorite writing tool. It could be Notion, maybe you will just use your notes app, and then without further ado, let's get started. Okay, first up, we will celebrate our wins this year, and if you think you don't have any, I know that you have one, at least one. Sometimes we tend to focus on the negative things that happened rather than on the positive things that happened, and that's totally okay, but then it's even more... Sorry guys, my voice is like... Okay. Sometimes we tend to focus on the negative things that happened and forget that there are a lot of beautiful and positive things that happened. This makes it even more important to reflect on the positive ones as well, in my opinion. So for me, for example, this year I really started to focus on my mental health for the very first time in my life, to be honest. I still have a lot of work to do in that department, but I'll come to that later. The second thing that comes to my mind is that I really started to enjoy things and let my things enjoy. What? The second thing that comes to my mind is that I really started to let myself enjoy things, even if they're not really productive or efficient, and without feeling guilty for doing that. And the third thing I'd like to point out is I finally managed to start my YouTube channel. This has been on my mind for quite a while, but I was always too concerned with judgment. So yeah, I started my YouTube channel and it helps me to build my confidence. Now let's think about the areas of improvement. A big topic for me at the moment is that I still feel guilty for prioritizing myself. The second thing would be that I have a very bad sleep schedule at the moment. This is like very closely tied to the fact that I'm worrying a lot. The third thing is that I still want to build up even more confidence, be it vlogging outside or just in general, to be more confident in myself, to trust myself more. And the fourth thing would be that I really want to stick to my university schedule. So these are the 4 areas that I'd like to focus on for next year. Of course, there are a lot more things that I'd like to improve in, but I think it's a good start to just pick out 3 or 4 areas that you want to improve in and focus on them. The more areas I have that I want to improve in, the more split up my energy will be. If I only have one main goal, of course all my energy can flow into that project, but in my case I have 4 areas I want to improve in, and according to the priority of these goals I will split up my energy. And I know that this approach may not be the most effective, but to tell you from my personal experience, this is how I started at the beginning of this year. And I've never been able to stick with my New Year's resolutions except for this year, but this year I really had to work my way up from rock bottom. So while I was able to work on certain things, I still feel like this year has just been really rough. Looking back, I still think that there was so much growth happening, and I hope that you will see the same in your year. Just like I said at the beginning, making New Year's resolutions never really worked out for me because I was just kind of postponing working on myself until the next year arrives, so until a certain date arrives, and I think that just took away my momentum, you know, my motivation, and it just gave me an excuse to slack off until next year. So I feel like making New Year's resolutions for the way I like to work on myself didn't really work well. So this is the method I like to follow, and maybe this can help you too. But now let's think about solutions for each respective area I talked about. I will move a little bit to the side so you can see. So these are some of the points that I want to actively work on for next year. The first one would be that just like I said, I still feel guilty for prioritizing prioritizing myself. I just recently learned the way to actually cope with an emotion in a healthy way is to accept it, to let it be felt, just like I said in, I think, my last video. In order to think of a solution, I like to think about where does this feeling even come from? Why am I feeling this way? I came to the conclusion that I just feel like I don't deserve to prioritize myself, and that's why I feel guilty when I'm doing that. If your goals for the next year look similar to mine, you really need to get to the core and to the roots of this feeling. I really need to work on my mindset and my self-worth. I do deserve to prioritize myself. Everyone does. And it's important to remind yourself of these facts over and over again. And the reason that I'm feeling guilty is because I am doing something differently. I know that I have to make this choice in order to protect my mental health. So these are things I always have to repeat in my mind whenever I'm feeling guilty. I will not distract myself, but I will accept the feeling and remind myself of the facts I basically know. And this can confuse us, but that's why it's important that we remind ourselves of the rational part in us. And when I'm feeling guilty, this is basically me living in the past, because I feel bad for a choice I've already made, that I know that I want to make, and that is good for me. So for me, it is very important to be more present in those moments. And being more present can mean that you're exercising. Exercising is really one of the best ways to connect with the present again, in my opinion. Just engaging your senses can help a lot. So this is kind of my strategy to work on that. So for the second thing, working on my sleep schedule, I had a very good sleep schedule a few years ago, but that was when I wasn't studying yet. And I'd like to reintroduce that. Now that I'm studying, it's kind of hard to keep up with sleep and work and everything. But I do know how I handled that in school, and I think that saved me from a lot of stress. First thing that I'd like to reintroduce in my schedule is setting alarms in the evening. At least one alarm for when I need to get ready for bed, and one alarm for finally going into bed. And I recommend to set both alarms a little bit before you really want to go to bed, especially if you know that you're kind of slow in doing your nighttime routine, or that you need a little bit time to fall asleep. The second thing that I like to try is to keep a notebook next to my bed. I mentioned before that I deal with a lot of worries before going to bed, and I think that's a big reason for why I have a very low sleep quality. So I'd like to try that out. And of course, the big bad screen time. I'm not even on my phone that much, but before I go to bed, I'm almost always on my PC, just looking something up or just working on a script, and I'd like to substitute that and to just engage in something that will make it easier for me to fall asleep later. And in order to work on my confidence, I have figured out a strategy, guys, okay? For example, when I'm outside in the city and I want to vlog, I find myself tucking away the camera if I see a bigger group of people that could notice me filming myself. But deep down, if I'm very honest with myself, I know that they don't care about me. They may have one thought, that's it. Basically. When I'm worried about other people judging me, that's me judging myself, really. Because if I would see another person filming themselves, I wouldn't think anything negative at all. I think, oh, that's so cool and it's intriguing. I wonder what she's talking about. And sure, there may be people that think negatively about you, but why should we bother? And this is something that if you have engaged in building up your confidence, you probably already know. But how can we give ourselves the reassurance that this is actually true? My strategy will be that I'm slowly trying to build up evidence that truly no one cares. I will learn more and more that what I know in my head is really true. And that will give me more reassurance, if you know what I mean. Because everybody says that nobody really cares. But if you didn't experience that, it's kind of difficult to just take it as it is. This is something that I would like to try. Just building up my confidence in small steps. So for the last part, which is keeping up with university and the schedule, I will try to implement a few things. I know I can work really well with the Pomodoro technique. For the ones that don't know, the Pomodoro technique basically divides your study time into a period of where you're studying and break after the studying time. You can repeat the cycle as often as you want. And the way I like to do it is to adjust the times according to my energy or motivation level. So when I feel like my energy level is kind of low, I do 20 minutes of studying and 5 minutes of a break. If I do feel very motivated, I do half an hour of studying and 10 minutes of a break. And something that that has really boosted my productivity is to spend my breaks with something completely unrelated to studying. So for example, working on my crochet project or taking care of my plants or doing some yoga exercises. Last semester I studied a lot outside, so in libraries, but we also have a bookstore where you can study, and I would like to reintroduce that because I just think at home we have a lot of distractions, but when you're in a studying atmosphere it's a lot easier to concentrate. And for me personally, I really need a quiet space to increase my focus and my productivity. Okay, so now we have a solid idea of how we can make 2025 not necessarily the best year, but a better year. And now comes the twist. I'm not waiting until 2025 to implement all of these tips. I will start today. In fact, I already started yesterday. I will show you how I implement my own tips and hope that this will motivate you to start today after watching this video, maybe even. So no, we will not slack off until 2025 finally arrives. We will start today and be ahead of the version of ourselves that only started in 2025. Because that's basically 2 months that we could have benefited from our improvement already. I don't know about you, but for me, I wouldn't want to wait until next year to start to work on myself. So I probably can't implement all of the tips, but the tips that I can implement right away, I will. So I'm in the city right now and I'm trying to vlog. I'm doing it, guys. And yeah, today is Halloween. By the time that you're seeing this video, Halloween is already over, but I still wish you a beautiful weekend. And yeah, guys, I'm doing it. The people really don't care, so this feels good. And I should do it more often. Step by step, right? Okay. If you found my struggles to be kind of relatable, maybe you want to have a look at my last video, I will link it here. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. I wish you a beautiful weekend and hope to see you next week. Bye!